protest headache is escalating for the French government after handling 5 straight disruptive weekends of protests. It is now the turn of the police force to express anger towards the government. 2 police unions have threatened to go on strike. They are seeking better working conditions and payment of over thousands of hours of unpaid overtime work accumulated over the years. The police unions have sought a meeting with the French president.
Conditions de travail, d'abord de ces dernières semaines, mais globalement depuis de longues années, de nos forces de sécurité en France n'ont pas été à la hauteur dans nos engagements de ce qu'elles font au quotidien.
Nos policiers, Monsieur le Premier ministre, attendent des actes. Ils expriment aujourd'hui, vous le savez, un profond malaise et une colère tout aussi profonde. 63 policiers et gendarmes se sont suicidés depuis le début de l'année 2018. Ils sont sous pression du terrorisme, sous pression de la violence, sous pression des manifestations, sous pression des flux migratoires.
The French government is trying to allay fears of another widespread protest. Each police officer involved in the Yellow Vest protest will now get a bonus of €300. Macron's government has been appeasing protesters as well as police personnel. This latest bonus payout will cost the government €33 million. This adds to the €10 billion burden due to the package announced by Macron to appease the Yellow Vest protesters. Going straight across now to our correspondent, Elena Casas-Montanez, joining us live from Paris. Elena, what's the situation looking like right now?
So these police protests are being widely followed in police stations across the country that are closed today. They're also being followed by the border police at Charles de Gaulle and Orly airports, who apparently are working strictly to order, and as a result have created a passport queue that's more than an hour long by checking people's passports very thoroughly. So I wouldn't be very amused if I was in that passport queue. The police, though, are essentially being paid off by the government, as you heard there. They met with police unions last night, offered that bonus of €300 for each officer who's been involved in the Yellow Vest protests. And now we're hearing this morning that the government is going to pay off a total of €274 million worth of overtime hours collected by the police before the end of the year. So these aren't just overtime hours that they've clocked up in the recent protests. In some cases, it's hours going back years that the police were supposed to take off in lieu at some point or other, but now they're going to be paid off for the whole amount. So the government says it is listening to the concerns of the police and moving to try and calm their anger.
Sure, but a rather embarrassing turn of events for President Emmanuel Macron, Elena. First, withdrawing that fuel tax hike, succumbing to the pressure, and now paying out the police personnel with those bonuses. It's certainly been a moment of great concern for the French government, and also a moment of introspection for whether or not it could have better handled this crisis.
Yes, I mean, Macron admitted in his speech last Monday night that of course he could have handled it better, that it had taken him too long to understand the genuine reasons for people's anger, which brought them out onto the streets. And we saw really a radically different tone from President Macron, who of course was elected last year promising to not back down in the face of any street protests and to push through his fairly radical reform agenda, regardless of any protesters who turned out onto the street. Of course, now he's realised, as every French president of recent decades has before him, that you can't govern France in opposition to street protests, and he has been forced to back down. So he's certainly going to be moving into the new year humbled and with his policy agenda in doubt, because he's very unlikely to be able to push through the more controversial aspects of things like unemployment reform and pension reform that we expected coming up in the new year.
Elena Casas-Montanez, thanks very much indeed for joining us with all of those updates. Japanese startup GrooveX, which is founded by an alumni of SoftBank Group's robot unit, has unveiled its first creation. The GrooveX debut product is a companion robot which is designed to make its users happy. Take a look.
ちょっと見てて。ミルクは充電の時間になると自分からすぐ変わる。